Most people think they're one promotion away from feeling secure. One raise, one investment, one good financial decision. But then something strange happens. The salary goes up, and somehow the pressure goes up with it. More bills, more obligations, more things that now have to keep working. That's the trap nobody talks about. Because the most dangerous financial illusions don't look reckless. They look responsible. Stable job, nice apartment, reliable car, retirement account, monthly salary. Everything appears fine until you realize your entire life depends on never being interrupted. And that's the real fear, not being poor, being permanently dependent. So in this video, we're breaking down the 10 financial illusions, quietly keeping millions of people working forever, even the ones earning good money. And the deeper we go, the more uncomfortable this gets. Because these illusions don't just affect your bank account, they shape your identity, your decisions, your freedom. And by the end of this video, you may realize the thing you called security was actually a cage. One, the stable income illusion. A stable paycheck feels safe. That's why people protect it with everything they have. But stability can become dangerous when it's your only source of survival. Because if your income stops, your entire system collapses. That's not stability. That's dependency. And most people never notice the difference. They think, I have a secure job. But what they really mean is, I have one thing keeping my life alive. Big difference. Imagine someone earning $120,000 a year. Good salary, nice lifestyle, respectable career. But every expense depends on next month's paycheck arriving on time. Mortgage, car, subscriptions, insurance, school payments, miss 3 months of income. And suddenly the successful life starts unraveling fast. That's the illusion. Income feels like wealth because it creates motion. But motion is not freedom. A treadmill moves too. And here's where people go wrong. The more stable the paycheck feels, the less urgency they feel to build independence. Which leads to the next illusion. 2. The I'll start later illusion. People delay financial freedom because the future feels far away, especially when life still feels manageable. Younger workers think, I'll invest seriously in my 30s. People in their 30s think, I'll really focus in my 40s. Then suddenly they're 52, still trying to catch up, because the cost of delay isn't linear, it compounds. And not just financially, psychologically too. The longer you delay ownership, the more emotionally attached you become to dependency. You get used to the paycheck, used to the structure, used to needing permission. That becomes your normal. And the scary part? High earners are often worse at this, because money temporarily hides bad systems. A person making $40,000 notices financial mistakes quickly. A person making $180,000 can hide them for years. Luxury masks weakness. That's why some people wake up at 50 with impressive incomes and almost no freedom. Not because they failed, because they postponed. And postponement feels harmless in the beginning, until time becomes expensive. Now this is where it gets dangerous. Because eventually people stop trying to build freedom and start building comfort. 3. The lifestyle upgrade illusion. Most lifestyle upgrades don't buy freedom. They buy maintenance, bigger apartment, nicer car, better neighborhood, higher-end experiences. At first it feels like progress, and sometimes it is. But there's a hidden trade happening underneath. Every upgrade increases your required monthly survival number, meaning your freedom threshold keeps moving farther away. You think you're climbing, but financially, you may just be raising the height of the cage. And the worst part? Lifestyle inflation rarely feels irrational. Nobody wakes up thinking, I want to trap myself financially. It happens slowly. A slightly nicer car, a slightly nicer apartment, a few more conveniences. Then one day your lifestyle costs so much, you can't imagine stepping away from work for even 6 months. That's not wealth. That's expensive survival. And society rewards this illusion constantly. People congratulate visible consumption, not invisible freedom. Nobody sees your low expenses. Nobody applauds your emergency fund. Nobody admires your flexibility. But they notice the watch, the car, the image. So people optimize for appearance and accidentally sacrifice options. But this illusion goes deeper than spending, because eventually, people stop owning their decisions and start outsourcing their thinking. Or the credential illusion. A lot of people believe education guarantees security. And education matters, skills matter, competence matters. But credentials alone do not create freedom, especially in a system that constantly changes. The dangerous belief is this. If I become valuable enough, I'll eventually feel safe. But many highly educated professionals still feel trapped. Doctors, lawyers, executives, engineers, high income, high stress, high dependence. Because income alone cannot solve structural fragility. In fact, sometimes credentials increase the trap. Student debt, Professional identity, social expectations. You spend years becoming someone, so walking away later feels impossible. And psychologically, this is brutal. Because once your identity becomes tied to your profession, you stop asking, what gives me freedom? And start asking, what protects the identity I built? That shift changes everything. Suddenly people stay in careers they hate, not because they need to, but because leaving would collapse the version of themselves they spent years constructing. And that leads to another illusion people rarely question, the belief that harder work automatically creates escape. Not exactly. 5. The hard work illusion. Hard work can build wealth, but hard work alone often builds exhaustion. That's the difference nobody explains. Because effort and leverage are not the same thing. A person can work 70 hours a week for 20 years and still remain financially fragile. Why? Because they built income, not systems. And systems matter more. Assets, ownership, equity, cash flow, investments. Those things continue working after your energy stops. Your labor doesn't. This is why some people feel permanently tired despite earning more every year. Their life only functions at full speed. There's no margin, no separation, no leverage. So they work harder, then spend more to compensate for working harder, which creates more dependence. And suddenly success starts feeling strangely similar to survival. Wake up, work, recover, repeat. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Many people secretly use hard work to avoid confronting deeper financial problems. Because overworking feels productive, even when the structure underneath is weak. And eventually, the body notices, the relationships notice, the mind notices, because burnout is often delayed financial reality. And this is the point where the conversation changes. Because you thought this was about money, it's not. It's about how people emotionally attach themselves to dependence. That's the real trap. Most workers aren't financially trapped first. They become psychologically trapped first. The paycheck becomes identity. Routine becomes safety. Predictability becomes emotional protection. And eventually freedom starts feeling uncomfortable. That's why people stay in jobs they hate for decades. Not because they're lazy, because uncertainty feels more threatening than quiet misery. And once that happens, the system no longer needs to force you to stay. You'll do it yourself. Which brings us to one of the biggest financial illusions of all. 6. The retirement illusion. Most people treat retirement like a guaranteed destination. Work for 40 years. Save consistently. Eventually relax. Simple. Except reality is messier than that. Inflation changes. Markets change. Health changes. Life changes. And many people quietly realize too late. They never built enough margin. Especially because retirement math is brutally unforgiving. Small mistakes repeated for decades become massive later. A person undersaving by a few $100s a month in their 30s may lose hundreds of thousands in future flexibility. But the deeper problem is psychological. People assume retirement is an age. It's not. Retirement is a financial condition, and many workers reach retirement age without reaching financial independence, meaning they technically stop working, but cannot actually stop needing income. That's terrifying. Imagine spending your entire adult life believing relief was coming, only to realize you still can't fully step away. Now the fear becomes real, because time starts shrinking. And when people feel time shrinking, they start making emotional financial decisions, which creates the next illusion. 7. The house illusion. People often treat a house like proof they've made it. And sometimes home ownership is a great decision. But sometimes, it's just a socially approved liability, especially when people buy based on emotion instead of flexibility. Huge mortgage, high taxes, maintenance, insurance, repairs. Suddenly the house owns the person, not the other way around. And the emotional pressure becomes massive. Because now losing income doesn't just threaten comfort, it threatens identity, family stability, status, image. That's why financially stressed people often defend expensive lifestyles aggressively. The lifestyle has become emotional infrastructure, and this creates a hidden fear loop. The bigger the obligations become, the less risk people can tolerate. So they stop pursuing opportunity, stop experimenting, stop building alternatives. Everything becomes about protecting the existing structure, even if the structure is quietly draining them. And this gets worse as income rises. Because higher earners usually gain access to larger liabilities, larger homes, larger payments, larger expectations, which means the financial prison simply becomes more luxurious. But the next illusion might be the most common one online, and probably the most misleading. 8. The investing illusion. A lot of people think investing automatically creates wealth. It doesn't. Behavior creates wealth. Investing only amplifies behavior. Someone with bad habits and emotional decision-making can destroy years of progress quickly, especially in environments driven by hype. People chase trends, panic during downturns, overestimate returns, underestimate time. And social media makes this worse, because everyone online appears financially ahead. Luxury clips, profit screenshots, early retirement stories. But most people are only seeing outcomes, not risk, not debt, not luck, not survivorship bias. So viewers compare their real life to curated financial theater, and slowly they start feeling behind. That emotional pressure creates dangerous behavior. People begin investing emotionally instead of strategically, trying to accelerate escape. And ironically, that desperation often delays freedom even longer, because sustainable wealth usually looks boring in real time. Consistency, patience, controlled spending, long timelines, not dopamine. But here's the deeper issue. Most people don't actually want wealth. They want relief. And those are not the same thing, because relief is emotional. Wealth is structural, which brings us to one of the hardest illusions to confront. And the more income will fix everything illusion. This one traps almost everyone at some point. The belief that the next income level will finally solve the stress. And temporarily, it does, until the nervous system adapts. That's the part nobody expects. Humans normalize improvements incredibly fast. The salary that once felt life-changing eventually feels ordinary. Then the pressure returns. Only now the stakes are bigger. This is why some high earners feel more trapped than they did years earlier. Because lifestyle expanded faster than freedom. And psychologically, this creates a brutal cycle. People begin attaching emotional safety to future income increases. If I can just earn more. But there's no finish line attached to that sentence. Only movement. And endless movement can become a form of financial anesthesia. You stay busy enough to avoid confronting the deeper issue. You never designed your life to become independent. You designed it to continue functioning. Big difference. One creates freedom. The other creates maintenance. And eventually, people reach a terrifying realization. They've spent decades optimizing for comfort, without ever building escape. Which leads to the final illusion. And this one changes everything. 10. The security illusion. The biggest financial illusion is believing security comes from permanence. Permanent job, permanent company, permanent economy, permanent stability. But permanence is fragile. Industries change. Technology changes. Health changes. Governments change. Markets change. And people who build their entire identity around stability often struggle most when reality shifts, because they optimized for continuity, not adaptability. Real financial security is not the absence of uncertainty. It's the ability to survive uncertainty. That's a completely different mindset. And once you understand that, you start seeing the world differently. You stop asking, how do I feel safe right now? And start asking, how do I reduce future dependence? That changes spending, career decisions, risk tolerance, investing behavior, lifestyle choices. Because freedom isn't built through appearances. It's built through optionality, the ability to say no, the ability to pause, the ability to walk away. And most people quietly sacrifice those abilities long before they realize their value. That's the tragedy, not poverty. Dependence without awareness. Because the most dangerous cages are the ones people decorate. You were told stability was the goal. Stable career, stable income, stable life. But for a lot of people, stability became a system they can never leave. And that's why so many workers feel exhausted. Despite doing everything correctly, they followed the script. But nobody warned them the script could become permanent. So maybe the real financial question isn't, how much do you earn? Maybe it's, how long could your life continue if the income stopped? Because that answer reveals everything. And the uncomfortable truth is, a lot of people who look financially successful are one interruption away from panic. Not because they failed, because they built lives that require constant maintenance. But this isn't the biggest trap. The next one is worse, because some financial decisions don't just delay freedom. They make people feel rich while becoming poorer underneath. And once you see those, you'll never look at money the same way again.